I never thought a single moment could erase everything I was. One second, I was sitting at a family dinner. The next, I was being slapped so hard the entire room went silent. My mother-in-law grabbed my hair like I was nothing and threw me out of the house like I never belonged there. But what hurt the most wasn't her. It was my husband, standing there, smiling as it happened. And that smile, that was the moment something inside me completely broke. Because a few days later, I went back. And what I did at their biggest event didn't just expose them, it destroyed everything they built. And they never saw it coming. It all started that night. I had been married into that family for just 1 year. On the surface, they looked untouchable, a rich, respected family known everywhere for their charity work. People didn't just admire them, they trusted them. They were seen as the kind of family that built hope for others, running large charity organizations, organizing donations, helping struggling communities, and standing in the spotlight as heroes of kindness. That was their identity. That was their image. And when I first married in, I believed it too. I was educated, organized, and eager to contribute. So naturally, I started helping in their work. At first, it was small things, arranging files, managing lists, organizing documents during events. Nothing big, nothing noticeable. But slowly, they let me in deeper. More responsibility, more trust, more access. And with every passing week, I started to feel something I never expected in that house. Pride, like I actually belonged, like I had married into a family that didn't just have money, but purpose. But that illusion didn't last forever. That night, we were having a family dinner, not a public event. No cameras, no media, just close relatives, the people who already understood the unspoken rules of that house. The atmosphere looked perfect on the surface. Soft lighting, expensive dishes, quiet conversations, everything carefully controlled, like even silence had a price. My mother-in-law sat at the head of the table, as always, confident, respected, in control of every glance in the room. I moved around serving drinks, making sure everything was perfect. Because in that house, perfection wasn't optional, it was expected. And even the smallest mistake could change everything. Everything felt normal, until it wasn't. I stepped forward with a glass of juice in my hand. Just one moment, one small slip. My hand shifted slightly, and the glass tilted. The juice spilled prima onto her dress, and in that instant, the entire room froze. No one spoke. No one even breathed properly. The silence wasn't empty, it was heavy, waiting, watching. And that's when I realized something small in that house was never just small. It was about to become everything. I froze instantly. My heart dropped into my stomach as I stared at the stains spreading across her dress. "I'm so sorry," I said quickly, my voice shaking. "It was an accident. I didn't—" But I never finished the sentence. Her hand came out of nowhere. A sharp slap hit my face so hard the sound echoed across the entire room. For a split second, everything went white. My head turned with the force, my skin burning, my thoughts completely stunned, like my brain couldn't process what had just happened. And the worst part? No one moved. No one stood up. No one even tried to stop it. Before I could even regain my balance, her fingers were in my hair. Tight, controlling, humiliating. She pulled me forward as if I weighed nothing. "For something so simple you can't even be careful?" she snapped, her voice cold and cutting. I tried to steady myself, my hands instinctively reaching for her grip, but my body felt slow, disconnected, unreal, like I was watching it happen to someone else. The room blurred around me. Then she pushed me toward the door, still holding my hair for a second longer before letting go completely. "Don't come back in until you learn how to behave," she said flatly. And then the door slammed shut. Silence followed me outside. The night air hit differently, colder, sharper, like it carried the weight of what just happened. I stood there, my hair messy, my cheeks still burning, my hands slightly trembling at my sides. But I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stood there, trying to understand how a single mistake could erase me so quickly. Inside that house, I had spent a year trying to belong, trying to be accepted, trying to be enough. And in a matter of seconds, it all collapsed. Slowly, I turned my head toward the glass beside the door, and that's when I saw him, my husband, standing inside, watching, not shocked, not angry, not confused, just smiling. That smile didn't feel normal. It felt like confirmation, like I had finally seen something I was never meant to notice. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just hurt, it cracked. I looked away slowly, like I couldn't fully process what I had just seen. That smile. It stayed in my mind even when I stopped looking at him. I stepped back from the door, my feet moving on their own, as if my body had already decided before my mind did. And for a few seconds, I just stood there in silence, not thinking, not reacting, just absorbing, because something had changed inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. A year of effort, of trying to fit in, of trying to be accepted, suddenly felt meaningless because now I understood something I had been avoiding for too long. I was never really part of them. Not truly, just tolerated, controlled, allowed to exist as long as I was useful. The wind brushed past me, but I barely felt it. My mind kept replaying everything in fragments: the slap, the grip in my hair, the door closing, and that smile. That single image stayed in my mind even when I stopped looking at him. I took a slow breath, trying to steady myself. But instead of breaking down, something else started forming. Clarity, sharp, cold, undeniable. For the first time, I stopped asking myself what I did wrong. I stopped trying to justify their behavior. I stopped hoping it would somehow make sense if I just tried harder. Because it wouldn't, and it never would. Inside that silence, I made a decision. Not emotional, not impulsive, final. I turned away from the house, and I walked. No knocking back, no calling out, no looking over my shoulder, just distance growing between us and everything I thought was my life. The streetlights blurred slightly as I walked, but my mind stayed focused, because deep down, I already knew that that night wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning, and they had no idea what they had just created. The next 2 days, no one came looking for me. No calls, no messages, nothing. At first, I expected something, an explanation, an apology, even anger, something to prove that what happened mattered to them. But the silence was louder than anything. And strangely, it hurt less than I expected, because deep down, I already knew the truth. That family didn't react to emotions, they reacted to control. And I was no longer in their control. I stayed alone during those days, replaying everything in my mind. Not the pain anymore, but the patterns. Because once you stop seeing the emotion, you start seeing the system behind it. And that's when everything became clearer. My in-laws weren't just a respected charitable family like everyone believed. They had built an entire identity around charity. Public events, donation drives, media appearances, emotional speeches. On camera, they were perfect. Kind voices, soft smiles, gentle hands helping people in need. But off camera, it was different. I had seen it too many times to ignore it now. The shift was always the same. The moment recording stopped, the warmth disappeared. I remember one event clearly. They were filming a donation video for an elderly man. My mother-in-law had smiled warmly, holding his hands, speaking gently like she truly cared. But the second the camera turned off, her expression changed. Her voice dropped. "All right, that's enough. Don't come again and again." The man just stood there, confused. Moments ago, he was being treated like family. Now he was being dismissed like a burden, and no one around questioned it. That was the pattern. Kindness on camera, cruelty behind it. At first, I tried to ignore it. Then I tried to understand it. Then I tried to speak about it. But every time I was shut down. My husband laughed it off. My mother-in-law dismissed it completely. Don't interfere in things you don't understand. That sentence stayed with me because it wasn't just rejection, it was conditioning. They didn't want questions, they wanted silence. And slowly,